What happens when an AI company helps capture a dictator, then refuses to keep working for the Pentagon? Hundreds of employees drew a line in the sand, and the U.S. government responded with a weapon no one saw coming.
The U.S. government was already using Anthropic's AI to pick bombing targets, classified strikes, a dictator's capture. Then the Pentagon asked for one more thing. And for the first time in history, a Silicon Valley CEO looked the defense secretary in the eye and said no.
To understand the Anthropic-Pentagon standoff, we have to look behind the curtain. Think of military AI not as a sci-fi Terminator, but as a super librarian, sorting through mountains of satellite images and intercepted data at lightning speed.
By July 2025, Anthropic had quietly signed a $200 million contract. Partnering with Palantir and Amazon, they placed their AI, Claude, directly into Impact Level 6 top-secret military servers.
But what was a Silicon Valley chatbot actually doing inside those highly classified rooms? The answer is far more lethal than writing emails.
It was actively hunting. In January 2026, Claude processed vast amounts of intelligence for a classified operation in Venezuela. The direct result of that data crunching? The capture of Nicolás Maduro.
It didn't stop there. Claude was integrated into the Pentagon's Maven smart system, actively identifying bombing targets in the Middle East. Anthropic wasn't just observing the kill chain, they were a vital link in it. Enter Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. In early 2026, he issued an aggressive ultimatum to the tech industry. He demanded that Anthropic remove its safety guardrails and allow any lawful use of its AI.
That phrase, any lawful use, was a Trojan horse. It meant the Pentagon wanted two very specific things: the ability to conduct mass domestic surveillance on Americans and the integration of AI into fully autonomous lethal weapons.
Imagine building a digital brain that is vastly smarter than you, but you need an absolute guarantee it won't cross certain moral lines. How do you program ethics into math? Anthropic's answer is the Claude Constitution. It's an 80-page legal blueprint governing the AI. Think of it like Isaac Asimov's 3 Laws of Robotics, but written by a team of paranoid constitutional lawyers.
Unlike older AI that just follows basic rules, this constitution legally forces Claude to prioritize safety over being helpful. If a military request violates the core constitution, the AI literally cannot comply. And that constitution drew 2 massive, non-negotiable red lines. Number 1, no mass domestic surveillance. And number 2, no fully autonomous weapon systems capable of killing without a human pulling the trigger.
But the Pentagon didn't care about hallucinations. They wanted the guardrails gone. As the deadline for the ultimatum approached, the pressure inside Anthropic's San Francisco headquarters reached a boiling point.
Over 200 Anthropic employees signed an internal letter demanding the company hold the line. It was a massive gamble. Stick to your morals and risk destruction, or keep your biggest client.
They held the line, and their refusal sparked a historic rebellion. A public letter titled "We Will Not Be Divided" went viral, sending shockwaves across the entire Silicon Valley ecosystem.
Nearly 950 employees from rival tech giants, including Google and OpenAI, verified their identities and signed the letter, publicly siding with Anthropic's ethical stand against the demands of the U.S. military.
But here is the most fascinating aha moment of the entire AI Ethics 2026 debate. If we look closely at the rules, was Anthropic actually being a pure pacifist?
Not exactly. Let's look closely at Amade's red lines. He banned domestic surveillance, spying on Americans, but he explicitly permitted lawful foreign intelligence.
This means that under the Claude Constitution, Anthropic's vaunted ethics effectively stopped at the U.S. border. Spying on citizens in other countries? Totally acceptable.
It's a classic ethical paradox. It's like saying a dangerous weapon is perfectly moral to use, just as long as it's pointed at someone standing outside your zip code.
Remember the Maduro capture? That was foreign intelligence. Anthropic was perfectly comfortable with military action as long as it fit neatly through their specific legal loophole.
So, how does the most powerful military on Earth react when a Silicon Valley startup tells them no?
With brutal, unprecedented retaliation. On February 27, 2026, President Donald Trump ordered all federal agencies to immediately phase out Anthropic's technology.
Simultaneously, Defense Secretary Hegseth dropped a nuclear bomb on the company. He invoked a law called 10 U.S.C. Section 3252, officially designating Anthropic a supply chain risk to national security.
To understand how crazy this is, you need to know that this severe label is historically reserved for hostile foreign adversaries.
Companies like China's Huawei get this label. This marked the very first time in history the U.S. government applied it to an American company.
The glaring irony? The government labeled Anthropic a national security threat, while simultaneously relying on their AI to pick bombing targets in the Middle East.
This wasn't just a bad PR day. This designation was designed to be a B2B death sentence. It works like a digital virus. By law, it forces any defense contractor doing business with the U.S. military to completely purge Anthropic from their private corporate workflows. Rather than fold, Anthropic sued the Department of Defense.
So what happens when your flagship software suddenly becomes legally radioactive to your biggest clients?
You hit a financial brick wall, and this wall was built right when Anthropic was trying to raise $10 billion at a staggering $350 billion valuation.
In a March 2026 court filing, CFO Krishna Rao revealed a terrifying truth. The company had already spent over $10 billion just training its AI models. Training AI is like burning piles of cash to generate math. You only make that money back if massive enterprise clients buy the finished product.
But the government blacklist caused enterprise clients to panic. Overnight, an $80 million agreement with two major financial firms was paused. Billions in future B2B sales suddenly evaporated.
Anthropic had spent $10 billion building a product that the U.S. government just made illegal for its massive network of contractors to use.
The public, however, loved it. The day after the blacklisting, Claude surged past ChatGPT to become the #1 app on the iOS App Store.
It was a massive moral victory. People wanted to support the company that stood up to the Pentagon. But as we learned earlier, moral victories don't pay for the billions of dollars in raw computing power needed to keep the AI running.
In the cutthroat world of Silicon Valley, what happens when you drop a $200 million contract on the floor?
Someone else picks it up, almost immediately.
Just hours after Anthropic was blacklisted, OpenAI swooped in. They signed the exact same $200 million Pentagon deal that Anthropic had just rejected. OpenAI had quietly scrubbed its blanket ban on military applications back in early 2024, paving the way for exactly this moment.
It was a ruthless business move. Even OpenAI CEO Sam Altman later admitted that taking the contract so quickly was opportunistic and sloppy. And it wasn't just OpenAI. Google rapidly expanded its Gemini for government contracts to fill the lucrative void left by Anthropic.
Palantir, the data giant already deeply embedded in the military, continued integrating AI into battlefield scenarios without any restrictive ethical carve-outs.
Remember that 80-page Claude Constitution? It turns out, if your Constitution gets in the military's way, they will simply find a company without one. So when the dust settled, who actually won the Anthropic-Pentagon standoff?
Anthropic won the battle for public trust. They proved they were willing to risk their entire empire to stick to their principles.
Rather than fold, Amodei and the Anthropic board chose to sue the Department of Defense. It was a final, defiant act against the military-industrial complex.
But the Pentagon proved a much darker reality. They proved that ethical holdouts don't stop the military machine. They just get bypassed.
The military will always find a vendor willing to build the weapons of tomorrow.
In the end, the $10 billion refusal wasn't just about AI. It was a harsh lesson. In the future of warfare, ethics might just be a luxury that startups can't afford.